I'm about 80 pages into part two of The Stand by Stephen King, the uncut edition. This is a big, chunky read. Part one of The Stand took me almost 2 months to get through. It was very slow going, very glacial. But part two is starting off with a bang. I've been introduced to a very important character, Mother Abigail. This isn't much of a spoiler because it's in the little book cover. It's on the back of the soft cover paperback versions of this book. Mother Abigail is the embodiment of good in the setting of this story. And the antagonist of this book is Randall Flagg, the charismatic, grinning, dangerous Randall Flagg. Mother Abigail, why is she a very interesting protagonist? Why is she a very interesting character? She's 108 years old. She is ancient, old as dirt, but she's got some sass. She has a lot of wisdom to bestow to the supporting cast of characters. And I'm so excited to see how all these characters I've been introduced to, they're all on the collision course. And it's going to happen somewhere towards the end of this story, like 1,000 pages from now. And I can't wait to see how Randall Flagg, the embodiment of evil, and Mother Abigail, the embodiment of good, clash. Mother Abigail, she's an older black woman. She was born in the late 1800s. This book takes place in 1990. And she's 108 years old. She has seen, Reconstruction. She has seen Jim Crow. She has a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience, and it's shaped her. She's a character of such strong faith, of such gravitas, of such wisdom. And every time I read about Mother Abigail, she reminds me of my great-grandmother. My family, I have a very big family. And my great-grandmother was a very powerful, very influential, very inspiring matriarch in my family. She raised a bunch of her grandchildren. She was wealthy and she was very charitable. No one had a bad thing to say about my great-grandmother Mildred. And one of the sad things about growing up is you have a different perspective. You're able to look back on your past with a better point of view, with more information. And a lot of the times, you're able to notice the dark underbelly of your family. You're able to understand the dark history, the political maneuvers, the drama that was the backdrop of your childhood. And consequently, you start to view a lot of different people in your family and in your circle in a more negative light. Very few people, look better when you look back on it as an adult. But my grandmother, my great-grandmother, she is a rare individual. The older I get, the more stories I hear about her, the more amazing of a woman she becomes. She's been gone since I was a freshman in high school, and I was still very close with her. But she had such an atmosphere around her. She had such an aura. Like, they talk about people that have aura, and generally you talk about men who have aura. My great-grandmother had an aura. No one had a bad thing to say about her. No one would speak ill of her. Everyone loved her. Everyone respected her. And as I get older, I learn more about her. She just becomes more and more amazing. And that's who I'm picturing when I think of Mother Abigail. Obviously, I guess it's not obvious because I'm mixed race. My great-grandmother grandmother was a small Norwegian lady, not a small black lady like Mother Abigail. But that's who I'm picturing. That's the vision. That's the image I have in my mind's eye. Thursday. So I'm driving through Pahrump, and one of my favorite parts of living in this town is the local fauna. The desert in the Las Vegas Valley is not known to support a lot of life. There's not a lot of cool critters. But one thing that I was very surprised to learn about is that we have wild horses, and they just come to the park in the middle of Pahrump. Let me show you guys. But yeah, they just got some horses. They're a little emaciated because it's a desert, but they're always here. A lot of the locals come and feed them illegally. I'm not doing that. But yeah, isn't that neat? Friday night. I have a controversial opinion to share with you guys. My stand on The Stand. This is Christian literature. I know most of you guys won't agree with me because Stephen King is not known for his Christian literature. He's a horror author. Most Christian and religious institutions don't like Stephen King's work because the dangers of religious fanaticism are prevalent throughout all of his, not all, a lot of his books, particularly his books before the 2000s. But there are so many biblical allusions in The Stand, allusions to Job, allusions to Christ, allusions to Satan. And these aren't just like subliminal allusions that like only a believer would be able to see. It's very clearly stated. Like, he uses religious examples constantly in The Stand. I'm only halfway through, and there's at least 24 biblical allusions. The antagonist literally is on top of a mountain talking to a character and is like, bow down before me, and I will give you everything that you want, which is a clear allusion to Jesus Christ in the wilderness when Satan tempts him. But when I really made that connection about this book being Christian literature, I started thinking about a lot of Stephen King's other books, particularly the older books that I've read from King, like The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. There are biblical allusions throughout that book as well. And I know Stephen King is not like a fan of organized religion. I'm not sure if he's practicing. I'm not sure about his personal beliefs because I don't know him personally. I'm just a fan. But he writes some pretty compelling Christian literature. And the most I'm willing to compromise on this opinion would be that this is Christian literature adjacent. If you've read The Stand, I'm pretty sure you'll see where I'm coming from, even if you don't particularly agree. But I plan on making a video sometime in the near future about how Stephen King writes interesting Christian literature. And I'm sure a lot of people won't agree with me. I thought I would share a few more thoughts expounding upon why I think The Stand is Christian literature. Christian literature, Christian fiction gets a bad rap in the year 2024 because most people are non-religious, agnostic. They don't have a faith that they adhere to. But I'm of the belief that good Christian literature can be enjoyed even if you are not a believer. The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis is Christian literature. And it's very clearly Christian literature. And if you are a believer, those books are amazing. But they hold their own even if you are not religious. The religious allusions and comparisons and allegory are all there. They're there for everyone to see. No one could deny that Narnia is Christian literature. But you don't need to be a Christian to enjoy it. Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien was adamant that his trilogy, the great Lord of the Rings trilogy, was not Christian literature. But his theology, his religious beliefs leak through the pages. From what I've heard, I haven't read it, but, you watch the movies, there's a lot of Christian allusion there. And though he would say it's not Christian literature, most Christians would agree that Lord of the Rings is Christian fiction, or at least Christian adjacent. And that's where I'm putting The Stand. It's Christian literature adjacent. Because at its center is a cosmic struggle between good and evil. And in this book, it is between God and Satan, supposedly. I'm sure if I get towards the end of this book and that has nothing to do with it, I'll eat crow. I'll admit that I'm wrong. But at this point, I think The Stand is clearly Christian literature adjacent, if not just outright Christian literature. But at the same time, one of the common themes in Stephen King's bibliography is the dangers of religious extremism, at using one's faith as a reason to make political or radical action. Stephen King is strongly opposed to that. And you see this debate playing out throughout The Stand and throughout all of Stephen King's other books that talk about the subject of religion. So yes, I think I'm going to do a long form video talking about how The Stand is Christian literature, and I'm sure that most people will disagree with that theory, but I think it's going to be sound. I think it could be interesting. We'll see if I get around to it. Hello, Sunday. I only have this much left of The Stand by Stephen King. I read on the Kindle 403 pages of The Stand, and that's reaching my goal. The point of this week was just to be a good bridge week so that way next week I could finish this monster and it will finally be off my TBR. This book has been on my TBR for several years now because I can't continue on with The Dark Tower until I read, The Stand, because I guess a character makes an appearance later on in the series. I read The Wasteland years ago, which is the third installment in The Dark Tower, but I wasn't able to fully comprehend what was happening. So I told myself that I would read The Stand and that I would return years later and read The Wasteland. So I'm going to finish The Stand and eventually I'll be able to continue on my journey toward The Dark Tower. What do I think about The Stand so far? I think it's a very controversial piece of Christian literature. And like I said before, I think there's a negative connotation with Christian literature in general, Christian fiction. And I think good Christian fiction is like a story you could enjoy without having to be religious. And I think The Stand is one such story. I plan on making a long form video about it, about how The Stand is Christian fiction sometime before the end of the year. And maybe I'll ruffle some feathers, but it's something I strongly believe in. And even though I'm aware of Stephen King's multiverse and like how Caw and the energy and power that runs this universe like, works, I'm convinced that if you read The Stand as a standalone, it's Christian literature all the way. Next week, I'm really excited because I'm finishing The Stand, and I should probably finish that before Thursday of next week. That's exciting. And then I could start reading The Shining, which is a book I'm reading with a few of my friends. We started a book club, and the first book we are reading during this book club, like as a part of this book club, is The Shining. So a lot of Stephen King in the month of November. 403 pages. I'm going to finally finish this monster. And I had a lot of good thoughts this week. This book took me to places I wasn't thinking I would go to. Lots of interesting thoughts about faith and religion. And I wasn't anticipating that. Stephen King is very not religious now, but he has a very good grasp of the cosmic battle between good and evil that is, that is explained in the Christian theology as between Satan and God. And, Stephen King does a very good job at explaining that and depicting that. And I look forward to seeing how this epic plans out. I'm not sure if it's going to be my favorite book of the year, but it's up there. It's going to be a contender. So yes, this week was pretty damn good. Next week, I think it's going to be even better. I look forward to finally finishing The Stand, but this is reading vlog part 2 of The Stand, and I hope you liked it. Thank you guys for watching this week's reading vlog, and I'll talk to you guys next time.